Drake and Pusha T, things have taken a fascinating turn. Drake is openly admitting that he's falling apart, claiming he's never been more broke, and desperately trying to hold on to whatever he can. Meanwhile, the cupcake may have gotten a bit too confident, because Pusha T has seemingly retired from making diss tracks altogether. This shift has major implications for the entire rap world and hip-hop history. Before we go any further, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Now, with Pusha T announcing that he will no longer release diss tracks for the rest of his rap career, the impact spans across his own legacy, the hip-hop landscape as a whole, and even what could be seen as a win for Drake. What we're witnessing in hip-hop is a declaration from one of the best rappers in the game right now, and one of the greatest of all time. This change is bound to influence the way certain softer rappers, especially those who never align with him and who attempted to step on his momentum as a solo artist and as part of Clipse, speak and carry themselves moving forward. But before we get into that, and before we dive into how Drake is having an all-time cringe moment by admitting he's now a legacy act who's clinging to what he accomplished 15 years ago, we need to look at the statement Pusha T released regarding his future in rap, specifically his approach to diss tracks. He said, "I've kind of been through that chapter, and I'm over it. I'm at a point where I don't even want to make music with other people, let alone have anybody else in my music or be the focus of my music. What we're doing right now with Clipse is, to me, so next level. I feel like the taste level is above everything else. Even being caught up in the world of it, the people, the back and forth, I don't even like the energy around that anymore. If I don't see eye to eye with you, there are probably things I don't even want to engage with. It feels off to me." Diss tracks used to come with a certain standard. There was a clear winner, some would bow, and that was it, the last man standing. Now it's just a whole lot of noise. Even after we identify a winner, the noise continues. And at that point, you have to wonder, what's the purpose anymore? With the rapper who created the most important diss track of the 2010s, and one of the most important diss tracks of all time, the Story of Adidon, saying this, his words hold significant weight, especially considering everything Pusha T has dealt with this year. He once again went head-to-head with Drake, not through diss tracks, but through the entire censorship situation, making sure his album and his message were heard despite the label suppression initiated against him. On top of that, there was everything involving Travis Scott. Push was involved in multiple rap beefs this year, and has always been regarded as one of the most feared rappers in hip-hop history. So when he addresses the nature of lyrical competition like this, it sparks a wide range of reactions. On the Drake side, they're trying to spin this as an admission of defeat, as if he's giving up on trying to end Drake's career, because Drake always manages to come back and stay in the spotlight. But anyone thinking that is missing the point entirely. Then again, considering their Drake stands, it's not exactly surprising. What Pusha T is highlighting here centers around the dragification of hip-hop culture. The environment Drake has fostered that has diluted the value of the culture and opened the door for people who don't understand lyrical competition, hip-hop principles, or anything resembling what this genre was meant to represent. When you read his words closely, it becomes clear that the reaction to his beef with Drake, and the reaction to Kendrick Lamar's beef with Drake, is exactly what has pushed him to this point. It's why he's saying he's done making diss tracks and essentially finished with the entire dynamic. He lays it out plainly. Hip-hop used to operate within a culture where, despite differences and clashes, even with regional biases or strong fan allegiances, there was a shared understanding of the sport of rap and what made a diss track great. The debate centered on the actual content, like with Takeover and Ether, and even with all the back and forth, there were clear winners, or at least a clear understanding of how the beef played out and what it meant for hip-hop. Fast forward to the modern era, and we see Drake shaping a version of hip-hop that has drifted far from what it was intended to represent. He's allowed in an audience that doesn't respect the essence of the art form. When Pusha T speaks on this, he's directly addressing the state of hip-hop in the aftermath of both his own beef with Drake and Kendrick's. According to Push, these beefs are no longer settled through musical back and forth alone. There's no consensus winner, no finality, and no shared focus on the quality of the tracks. Instead, because of where hip-hop is now, and because of people who don't understand the culture, the competition spills outside the music. And then you have someone like Drake, who will go as far as smear campaigns or even filing lawsuits just to solidify his position in a rap beef. When it comes to Drake and Pusha T, things have taken an interesting turn. Drake is openly admitting that he's falling apart, that he has never been more financially strained, and that he's desperately trying to hold on to anything he can. Meanwhile, the cupcake may have become a bit too confident, because Pusha T is now seemingly retired from making diss tracks altogether. This development carries major implications for the entire rap world and for hip-hop history. Before we dive in, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps a ton. With Pusha T announcing that he will no longer release diss tracks for the rest of his rap career, the impact spans multiple levels. Pusha's own career, the broader hip-hop landscape, and even the indirect victory this gives to Drake in the eyes of some fans. What we're witnessing is a declaration from one of the best rappers in the game, and one of the best of all time, that is sure to shift how these softer rappers who never align with him, and who have tried to diminish his run both as a solo artist and with Clipse, will now talk and posture. But before we get deeper into that, and before we discuss how Drake is experiencing one of his most cringeworthy moments to date, openly admitting he's a legacy act who's living off what he accomplished 15 years ago, we need to examine Pusha T's recent statement about the future of his role in rap, specifically his stance on diss tracks. He said, "I've kind of been through that chapter and I'm over it. I'm at a point where I don't even want to make music with other people, let alone have anyone else be the focus of my music. What we're doing with Clipse right now feels so next level. The taste level is above everything else. Even being caught up in the world of back and forth, I don't like it. If I don't see eye to eye with someone, there are probably things I don't want to be around. It feels off to me. Diss tracks used to have a ransom. There was a clear winner. Someone bowed out and that was it. The last man standing. Now it's just noise. Even after a winner emerges, it's still noise. It makes you wonder what the point is anymore." Hearing this from the rapper who created one of the most important diss tracks of the 2010s, and one of the most important of all time, with the Story of Adidon holds enormous weight, especially considering what Pusha T has been involved in this year. He went head-to-head with Drake once again. Not through diss tracks this time, but through the larger fight to make sure his album and message were heard despite the label suppression that followed him. And with everything that happened involving Travis Scott, Push found himself in the middle of multiple conflicts this year. He has always been one of the most feared rappers in hip-hop history, so for him to speak on the nature of lyrical competition this way naturally generated strong reactions. From the Drake side, fans are trying to spin this as Push admitting defeat, that he's giving up on ending Drake's career because Drake keeps resurfacing and hasn't been pushed out of the spotlight. But this interpretation completely misses the point. Then again, coming from Drake's stands, we shouldn't be surprised. What Pusha T is really describing centers around the Drakeification of hip-hop culture and the position Drake has placed the genre in. He's pointing directly at the ways the value of the culture has been degraded, how people who don't understand lyrical competition, hip-hop principles, or the core purpose of rap have taken over conversations they don't fully grasp. Reading deeper into his words, it becomes clear that the aftermath of his beef with Drake and the reaction to Kendrick Lamar versus Drake is what pushed him to this point. He's done making diss tracks because the culture around him has changed. Hip-hop used to be driven by a shared understanding of competition. Even when people disagreed or had regional loyalties, they still respected what made a diss track great. Arguments were rooted in the quality of the music, like with Takeover and Ether. There were disagreements, but there was still an understanding of the outcome and its implications for the culture. Fast forward to now, and Drake has cultivated a distorted version of hip-hop, one that diverges from what the genre was built to represent. He opened the door for people who don't respect the fundamentals. And in Push's explanation, you can clearly see him describing the state of hip-hop after both his beef with Drake and Kendrick's. Beefs are no longer settled through music alone. There's no consensus winner. Instead, people who don't understand the culture dominate the conversation. And you have Drake, who steps far outside musical boundaries. Smear campaigns, legal action, and anything else he believes will help him hold his place in a rap battle. While Drake fans want to claim he made Pusha T give up, it's not because Drake is a great rapper, respected, or morally justified. If anything, it's the opposite. Look at what happened to Push after exposing Drake. The fallout from the Story of Adidon. Outside of clearly winning the beef, proving himself as arguably the most feared MC ever, and exposing Drake so thoroughly that anyone grounded in reality saw Drake for who he was, created massive complications for Pusha T behind the scenes. This diss track, despite its artistic importance, caused issues that took him nearly a decade to escape. And even now, he's still feeling the effects. It completely altered his career trajectory from 2018 onward. For Drake fans who don't know, this is a key part. When the diss track dropped, Drake retaliated by crashing out to UMG. Even though Drake is on Republic Records, UMG controls both Republic and Def Jam, where Pusha T was signed. Push revealed that the label began quietly blocking anything they believed Drake wouldn't approve of. Anything that seemed anti-Drake, songs, statements, subtle lyrics, was flagged or denied clearance. We only know pieces of this, such as Push being removed from Pop Smoke's Aim for the Moon deluxe album, despite fans eagerly anticipating that track. He then found himself unable to release certain solo songs or albums as intended. Def Jam even created so-called lyric committees who reviewed all his records and in person, not in writing, told him which lines he had to remove because they might be interpreted as shots at Drake. Even collaborative tracks, like the one with Kendrick Lamar intended for the Clipse album, were blocked. The label didn't want the optics of Push and Kendrick on a song together, so they made up a separate excuse and shut it down. This forced Pusha T into a years-long struggle from 2018 through 2025. His opportunities shrank dramatically. Drake's influence limited how much exposure he could get and how freely he could express himself in his own verses. Ultimately, Push had to pay millions out of pocket to leave Def Jam entirely, both for himself and for Clipse as a group. Even then, Def Jam still retained a percentage of their recent album. Despite that, Push has thrived as an independent artist. The success of the new Clipse record is proof. And honestly, given how poorly Def Jam has operated in recent years, it's unlikely they could promote the album with the same effectiveness Clipse achieved on their own. Still, the reality remains. Pusha T continues to face the consequences of everything that unfolded after the Story of Adidon. And that context explains exactly why he's stepping away from diss tracks today. Despite all the success Pusha T has earned and everything he has accomplished, Def Jam and the label system that controlled it because of Drake are still taking a cut of a project they didn't even want released. That alone should make the situation incredibly clear. Regarding Pusha T retiring from diss tracks, here's the reality. If someone comes out and disses Push in a genuinely disrespectful way, he will absolutely abandon this stance and return to end their career on the spot. But what Push is really expressing here is that in an industry where he is constantly villainized by major rappers with enormous egos, artists protected by the machine because they function as its puppets, he no longer wants to engage with them, not because he fears competition or because the art doesn't matter, but because these artists play underhanded games behind the scenes and pull strings that can impact a man's livelihood and his family. If Drake fans want to celebrate that, fine. Enjoy it. Be the lamest people in the world if you must, because that is the only slight win you're going to get. Everything else surrounding Drake right now is bad, extremely bad. It's arguably the lowest point of his career, both creatively and behind the scenes. He is bankrupt in every sense of the word, and I fully stand by that take. The reason this is especially relevant right now is because all the streaming platform recaps and year-end wraps have just dropped, exposing that Drake has never been at a lower point in terms of what his future career looks like. At this stage, we genuinely need to classify Drake as a legacy act. When you break down the numbers, it becomes clear that his back catalog, essentially the first half of his career, is carrying him entirely. If the older music is doing all the heavy lifting while the new material is contributing nothing, we can't keep pretending he's still a relevant modern artist, contributing meaningfully to the musical ecosystem. This brings us to Drake's bizarre meltdown this week, where he tried to create a gotcha moment by laughing at everyone while bragging that his albums he doesn't even own the masters to and barely profits from, made him the most streamed artist in the world. And look, I'm not diminishing the numbers. A record like Take Care became timeless because The Weeknd, Kendrick Lamar, and everyone else who contributed elevated it into a classic. But celebrating the catalog that carries you when you gain almost nothing from it, it's strange behavior. Drake even posted videos trying to highlight how massive of an artist he is and how you can't escape his presence, clinging to cringe content in an attempt to remind people of his dominance. That's the energy he's radiating right now as the streaming numbers roll in, and he lands among the most streamed artists of the year. And sure, congratulations, I guess. But when you were the center of the music industry machine for as long as you were, being heavily streamed is not exactly shocking. What's even more laughable is when people try to compare Drake's streams to Kendrick Lamar's. If we compare their music to TV shows, Drake is essentially The Simpsons. Endless seasons, endless episodes, a massive catalog that naturally racks up streams. Kendrick, meanwhile, is a prestige series with only a few seasons, crafted intentional and selective. When a newer show has only 1 or 2 seasons, it doesn't need as many viewers to run up the numbers. That's really what I'm getting at here. And this is a part Drake fans keep missing in the streaming conversation. And honestly, it's embarrassing. Take Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick has, what, half the output Drake has? Maybe even a third? Drake floods streaming platforms with an enormous catalog, while Kendrick releases far less music. So if Drake ends up as the second most listened to artist, and Kendrick is sitting at number 4 with a fraction of material, that actually proves Kendrick's impact is far greater. He's generating more listens per piece of work, which is infinitely more impressive than Drake dropping an album or multiple albums every single year, plus a mountain of features and filler tracks. Drake did whatever the industry wanted from him. He pandered to every group, niche, audience, genre, style, and fan base he could possibly reach, and did it in the most inorganic way imaginable. Then he bragged about the results. One of the bigger points I keep stressing is the disappearance of intellectualism in hip-hop. We're seeing a visible clash. People who genuinely care about the genre and want to think about it, versus people who like a weird, watered-down version of the genre and get mad if you even attempt to think critically at all. And Drake perfectly embodies this anti-intellectual wave in hip-hop. Because if you think even slightly about what's happening, if you look at the massive difference in catalog size between Drake and Kendrick, or even Tyler, the creator, it becomes obvious. If Kendrick or Tyler had the same amount of material Drake has, spread across as many genres and playlists as Drake has, and they maintained even half of the usual quality, they would be running galaxies and circles around him in every conceivable metric. So looking at the landscape of hip-hop right now, Drake can have his little moment. If this is what makes him happy, good for him, because ultimately, all he's really going to have left are the numbers from his back catalog, a catalog that entire teams at UMG and Republic Records are paid specifically to keep alive. Their whole job is to make sure songs from Take Care, Views, and everything in between stay in rotation, get random boosts, and constantly resurface. That's why you keep seeing older Drake records gaining traction out of nowhere. And it's not just because those old songs captured something the new Drake material can't touch, though that's part of it. It's also because the label is pulling every lever possible to keep that catalog breathing. They're probably getting 90% of the value that comes out of those projects, and Drake might not even see the remaining 10%. So honestly, I love what Drake is doing here. I love how he's trying to talk his way into convincing everyone he's still the biggest artist in the world, and that his catalog is some monumental body of work instead of a carefully engineered, synthetic product. The industry has been using Drake as one of its biggest puppets for years, and it shows. Whether people are celebrating Pusha T stepping away from diss tracks, at least for now, or hyping up Drake's old catalog to prop him up on the streaming charts, it all comes back to the same thing. And the reason Pusha T is stepping back isn't because he's out of energy or ideas. It's because people like Drake have helped make the rap game soft. Not artistically, but industry-wise. Everything is corporate, padded, sanitized, and the competitive edge that used to define hip-hop has been drained by artists who play it safe, play it corny, and play directly into label interests. And then you look at the streaming numbers. Week after week, the only things keeping Drake afloat are Take Care and Views. His older music is doing the heavy lifting, and the new stuff is generating almost no excitement. So Drake can celebrate these numbers all he wants, but we know exactly what's feeding them. And it's not the music he's putting out today. He can enjoy the moment while this little interview season in hip-hop lasts. Everyone talking, debating, celebrating, or in Drake's case, straight up lie about how successful they are. It's all an elaborate distraction from the reality. His career is in shambles. And when the noise dies down, when the hype fades, people will finally see what's really going on. And when they do, it's only going to get uglier. And Drake better remember something. Pusha T may be stepping back from diss tracks, but he made it clear why. Because the industry, led by people like Drake, made the sport lame. But if Drake says the wrong thing, goes too far, or starts spinning another delusional narrative, Pusha will come back. And the next diss he drops would probably be even more devastating than the last. So that's where we're at. Let me know what you think about everything happening with Drake right now. The chaos, the decline, the unraveling of his career in real time. And what do you make of Pusha T's decision to step away from diss tracks? It's a massive statement when you consider who it's coming from and the impact he's had on competitive hip-hop and the culture at large. Honestly, it makes me wonder if this is signaling a much bigger shift, that the industry is tired of these soft, label-engineered puppets who have been trying to rig the game and manufacture influence. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I appreciate more than you know. But before you go, listen. Right before this, we actually got major news about Kendrick Lamar's future. A tour is almost definitely coming in 2026, and an album might be on the way as well. And trust me, that's just scratching the surface. So make sure to check out the suggested video.